What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's another week of picks and predictions. We have, starting here at noon o'clock Eastern time, we have Ohio State versus Northwestern. This isn't even a question. Ohio State's going to go into Northwestern, dominate this game, 45 plus. I don't think Northwestern's going to score very many points. Also, the rankings are going to be with the AP poll rankings. I don't think I have any bonus teams because I think AP poll did a pretty good job of taking out teams I didn't really want to cover. And then the teams that did get dropped out are playing a ranked opponent, so they end up in the video anyway. Next noon o'clock game we have is our first upset of the weekend. I have Arkansas beating Texas. You can crucify me in the comments for it, but you guys crucified me in the comments last week for Georgia losing. And guess what? Georgia lost. So I have Arkansas upsetting Texas. If you saw my 8-way tie video, you would also see a familiar face of Arkansas also beating Texas for that 8-way tie to happen. But hear me out. Texas is a good program. Texas is a good team. But they've been looking a little rough around the edges. But I think Arkansas, they have beaten good teams. They've beaten Tennessee this year. They beat Tennessee. They've gone toe-to-toe with other programs as well. They did get dominated by Ole Miss. But hear me out. Mark my words. Arkansas is winning this game. 27-24. Next game we have is Tulane. Tulane has entered the AP poll rankings. I have them entering the college football rankings as well. They're playing against Navy. This could have been a really good game with Navy if they would have beat Notre Dame, which that's a whole nother story. Tulane, I think, is going to win this game. I think they're going to win by like one score, 7 points. I have them winning 35-28 in this one. Next game we have is Pitt. Pitt has just vacated the rankings. They're vacated in my rankings after losing to an unranked team. I have them against Clemson losing. I was originally going to do an upset, but I just don't think that Clemson is going to lose twice in a row with two massive upsets. I think Clemson is going to win this game pretty handily, 27-21. Next big game we have is Colorado versus Utah. If Utah were to win this game, it would cause chaos in the Big 12. If you saw my video about Army, then you would also know that there could be chaos in the Big 12. But I do have Colorado winning this game 33-14. If this was the other way around, like we were in Utah, maybe there was a chance that Utah could have upset this team. But I still think Utah is very strong. I don't think they're the strongest team out there. I think that they got lucky against BYU, but then again, BYU likes to keep things close. They're like Miami. They like to play with their food. Next 2 o'clock game we have is Alabama versus Mercer. It's a bad team. Alabama's winning 50-0. Next game we have is Purdue versus Penn State. I love the Purdue upset. I love putting them as the upset figures, but Purdue this year, they're just bad. There's not even a spark of life that I can see that they would upset the Nittany Lions in any universe. So I have them losing 42-7 against the Nittany Lions. Next 3:30 game we have is Notre Dame versus Virginia. Notre Dame has cracked the number 10 spot at number 8 in the AP poll. I think they'll probably be around 8 or 9, maybe still 10 in the college football playoff rankings, depending on where the SEC teams like to shuffle around. So I have them beating Virginia pretty handily, 42-10. Notre Dame just needs to handle business, and then next week they're going to have a big game against Army. This is to show if Army can compete at the highest level, or if they're just another Navy losing really bad to Notre Dame. Next game we have is SMU versus Boston College. Boston College is a very interesting one. They're like the Purdue of the ACC. They like to come in here and ruin things for teams, but I don't think they're going to be doing it this week. I have SMU winning at home 28-17. This is a great season for SMU. With Miami's loss, it just makes it one step closer for SMU to win the ACC in their first year as being part of the conference. Next game, LSU has dropped down to 21 in the AP rankings, and they have a very small margin of victory against the Florida Gators. I think it all depends. My score right now is 27-24, all predicated on who is starting at quarterback for Florida. I try to find information. We don't know if DJ is going to be playing this weekend, but if DJ plays, I think there's a strong possibility that LSU loses again. But if they don't play him and they play the third-string quarterback, I don't think Florida's going to score as many points. I think it's going to be around like 20. They are going to score, but I don't think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be LSU pretty much like playing with their food for pretty much the entire time. Next Saturday, we have 3:30 against Louisville versus Stanford. Stanford's terrible. Stanford is currently 1-5 in the ACC, 2-7 in overall play. I don't think Stanford's going to compete in this game. Stanford has been good in years. I think Louisville's going to handle business 35-10 in this one. This Saturday, 4:15, those really beautiful 4:15 games with the SEC. We have Missouri versus South Carolina. South Carolina has entered the AP rankings with after 2 great wins. We have a Vandy win and a Texas A&M win. I think that South Carolina is going to come up with the overall win. It's not really an upset, but because South Carolina is favored by minus 13.5. But I just think Missouri is just not a good team. I think that Missouri has a problem where they just start really good in the beginning of the season against bad teams. They play against good teams, crumble, and then the rest of the season just looks mediocre for the best. But if you want chaos in the ACC, you want Missouri to win so then they can just continue being at that X2 mark. And if all the other teams become X2, there's just some crazy tie. Please check out that video. It'll be linked in the description below. But I do have South Carolina winning this game 35-27. First primetime game of the weekend we have is Boise State versus San Jose State at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Boise State has moved down the rankings a little bit, but I think they're still going to be in the top 12 in the college football playoff rankings. I think it would be just a disservice to put them at 13 after barely losing to Oregon and like having a great season. I know the last game against Nevada wasn't the best, but I still think that they're a top 12 team. I think they compete at the highest level. And I think they're going to dominate this game. San State might score some garbage time points, but I have them winning 39-20 in this one. Next Saturday game, I was talking to a couple friends weeks ago that said that ASU could potentially be ranked at this point against Kansas State with only one loss against Texas Tech. But they lost some more games. So now they're still unranked. They still only have X2. I think that they're going to come out with the upset on this one against Kansas State at home. I think Kansas State isn't that very good of a team. I think ASU has a chance here to really represent the Sun Devils and take them to the higher level, and I think they can come out with a win on this one. I think they're still competing for a Big 12 championship berth, and if they win this game, they're still in it. But they do play BYU next week, so it's going to be a very interesting stretch of games. Next Saturday game we have is a prime time in Madison. Madison is a very hard place to play. I think that Wisconsin's going to stay in this game for about the first half like they've done all year, and then Oregon's just going to take flight. I think it's going to be like 17-20 by halftime, and then Oregon's just going to score, and Wisconsin's not going to see the end zone or a field goal for the remainder of the game. So I have Oregon winning this 40-17. Next big-time matchup we have is Georgia versus Tennessee. This is where we get crazy because there's so much gobbling up in the SEC that we don't know which team is better than which. And it's all a bunch of just like stagnant greatness versus like Georgia a couple years ago where they were just dominant all around. There was a sole victor in the SEC. Right now there's a lot of just kind of like middle-of-the-road SEC team talent, a lot of X and 2s. There's potentially going to be 8 X2s depending on how these matchups fall into place at the end of the year. I have Georgia winning this game 28-25, but I could also see Tennessee coming out with the upset on this one, but I just don't want to put my chips into that basket just yet. Next garbage time game we have is Texas A&M versus New Mexico State. New Mexico State isn't very good in years. They had 2 great seasons a couple years ago, but after that, they still suck. So I have 42-10 on this one. Next Saturday game, late night, 9:30, we have is Washington State versus another New Mexico team, the Lobos. Washington State is ranked at 19 in the AP poll. I think Washington State has a good chance to even make the playoffs. They don't have any conference championship games, but if they keep dominating games and keep winning, their only loss is to Boise, and Boise is a playoff contender team. So there is a good possibility that they could potentially sneak in there depending on how the SEC gobbles each other up and how many losses each team gets and like what does it look like for them. If Washington State keeps dominating these Mountain West teams, there's a strong argument that they could potentially be that team sitting at number 19. And I have them winning 45-10 in this one. Last game of the weekend we have is BYU versus Kansas, another 10-15 Eastern time. I know these games are really hard to watch. I tried to watch last week's game, BYU versus Utah. I was just so tired after a long day of football that these games are just so hard to watch. I have BYU winning this 30-20, but there is a strong possibility that Kansas could potentially get the upset or even compete for the upset in this one because Utah versus BYU, that was a close one, but also that's like a crosstown rival, so you can also make that argument. But I do think that Kansas is going to stay in this one. That's going to be it for this video. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Please put in the comments anything that you'd like to add to my picks and predictions. I reply to everyone's comment, no matter what it is or how harsh of a reality check it could be. Please like and comment. Peace.